Good evening. Today is the 7th day of November 2015, and we continue our explorations in Savitri. And as always, I read something of Mother about Savitri to begin. Now, this I will read over a number of days because it's a talk that Mother gave to a disciple about Savitri. And for me, it's something so extraordinary. Mother begins, "Do you read Savitri?" "Yes, Mother, yes." "You have read the whole poem?" "Yes, Mother, I have read it twice." "Have you understood all that you have read?" "Not much, but I like poetry. It is because of that I read it." Mother, it does not matter if you do not understand it. Savitri, read it always. You will see that every time you read it, there will be something new, an experience, things which were not here, things you did not understand arise and suddenly become clear. Always an unexpected vision comes up through the words and lines. Every time you try to read and understand, you will see that something which was hidden behind is revealed clearly and vividly. I tell you, the very verses you have read once before will appear to you in a different light each time you reread them. This is what happens invariably. Always, your experience is enriched. It is revelation at each step. And lastly, before we begin, and our honored friend Alok with us again, sir, I want to tell you something that originally was told to me by Aurobindo Basu, who was Narad best friend. Now to many it's common knowledge, but still many may not know of it. One day Savitri was there and Narad was putting some papers on top of it. Very softly, Sri Aurobindo said, "Don't put anything on Savitri. It's my body." So we begin.
What you said is so deep that it takes time to...
Yes.
Yes, to understand Savitri is to understand the creator and the creation together. So it's impossible. It's only little bit that gets revealed, and that too through grace. There is no other way. We start a new passage, but it's in continuation with what we have been reading so far.
But Sri Aurobindo gives us a little break
Yes.
to begin the new section.
Yes, that's right. It's a new passage, a new section. He has revealed to us about the mysteries of nature, behind this facade of outer nature, material nature, mechanical nature, inconscient nature as we understand. There is a vaster nature which is conscious, filled with forces, teeming with energies and beings of whom we have no clue, no idea. And behind it all, she, the guardian deity, the Godhead, the goddess who stands behind it all. It's very interesting that Sri Aurobindo seldom uses names, though we feel tempted to use certain names from Indian mythology because so extensively names are given, or from Western mythology time to time. But it's really very good not to give any names, because otherwise we limit our own understanding by our own definitions. So
Yes.
there is a joy sometimes not to give any names.
And he doesn't name
Doesn't name.
Savitri's mother.
Yes.
He doesn't name Satyavan's
Yes,
mother.
yes. And here also, though, as I said last time, we are tempted to use the word Maya, Mahamaya, but essentially, well, it's enough to know that she, the goddess, who stands or mediates between the creation and the creator, and this is she who is being described so beautifully. A border's sovereign is the occult force. It's not easy to penetrate. It's a sovereign border. It's there, we know it, but it's very, very difficult to penetrate. Personally, I have often wondered that why it is so, why not, why all this is hidden. But then the other day I had a strange sight. Every day something or the other is there to learn. Plenty of things are there to learn. And sitting in the ashram, I was struck with the image of a squirrel which had that flower plasticity in its hands, in its feet. And it was running with little bit of the mouth and little bit of the feet. She was trying to nibble at the flower. And then another squirrel came and they both had a very gentle quarrel. They hardly can quarrel. And then there came another woman, lady who cleans the place. So they ran away. She picked up that flower and put it in the waste bin. And I had a strange revelation seeing all this. I said, yes, if all these beautiful things, these powers, these hidden knowledges were given to us, perhaps we would, like the squirrel, end up merely using it as food for ourselves because that's the only thing we understand. End up aggrandizing our egos and collapse in the process. Or simply pick it up and throw it into the dustbin because that's all we know. But to someone who knew the value of a flower, he would pick it up and offer it at the feet of the Lord and become one with Him. So, this is the problem, that these powers are not meant for display or for misuse or egoistic use. They are meant for doing the divine work, just as with hands and feet and mouth and everything. They are meant for service of the Lord. So too these powers are meant for service of the Lord, nothing else. And as long as there is the ego, they cannot be given to us. So it's a sovereign border which doesn't give the mystery to anyone unless one is a tapasvi like Ashupati or simply receives it by an act of grace. As an aside, another thing which I remember as we go into this part, there are so many interesting things. At one place in the agenda, the mother says she had found the mantra of life, and she actually, to leave nothing uncertain in the human mind, she said, I gave it to Aurobindo, and then she describes what the mantra could do. She says the mantra could bring a dead person alive. So literally Aurobindo had with him the power that could make a dead person alive. Aurobindo never used it as far as we know. Even bringing alive the cat was done by the power of his gaze. So to hold such powers, which any much lesser person or even a lesser person would have just simply misused it for aggrandizing.
And
To draw people.
And had 1,000 disciples.
Have thousands or million disciples. Aurobindo never used it. And there is another interesting part about this mantra. Mother had noted it down and that pocket diary got lost. So Mother mentions in the agenda, she says, oh, I was looking for that diary. It also had that mantra and it is lost. So the disciple is a little, oh, is it lost? She said, no, there is nothing to worry. Because even if somebody reads it, it cannot be used unless the consciousness is very pure. So I am not worried about it. But then she says, I needed it for something else, that particular diary. There were some other notings which I wanted to just refer to. And then she says so casually that, it must have been a vital theft, some being of the vital world, but they cannot use it. I know it for sure. And then she adds something which, her passing, moments are so profound. She says, well, anyways, it's no more needed, perhaps for me. Who could say so casually about someone something like a mantra of life? And she could do it. What an utter renunciation, what an utter abandonment, what is surrender. We get flustered with small things that we lose. And look at this. And she says, perhaps it's no more necessary for me to have it. So that has to be the state of consciousness for these gifts to be revealed. And to Ashapati, nature gives these gifts. That's what we read last time. A threshold guardian of earth scenes beyond, she has canalized the outbreaks of the gods. So we see the gods. One is that the gods appear out of the night, and that is also described in Savitri in the beginning. It was the hour before the gods awake. So that is a state of inconscient darkness, and as if to bring light, counteract that effect of darkness, the gods are born in the night. But there is another outbreak of the gods. When creation starts, even before it has gone into that state, there are the deities which have emerged out of the one divine consciousness. But they are part of that infinity. And now each god must have his own function, his own path, his own station of consciousness. And she canalizes them, gives them, canalizes, gives them each their appointed place. That's why even to gods, she is a mystery, because they have been put to task by none else but her. And what a privilege for us human beings to be given work by the same transcendent mother, whose cosmic aspect has canalized the gods. She gives work to the gods.
Lord, who has gratitude enough?
Yes. When Rishabh Chandji was given the work of killing the bed bugs in a bed, he wrote a letter to Aurobindo saying that I think the mother doesn't know I am a Jain and not supposed to kill. And Aurobindo replied, whatever work the mother gives, it's meant for your progress. Yes. So canalized the outbreaks of the gods. Imagine a state from which suddenly out of that one infinite consciousness the gods are emerging into the play, and she is the one who puts them in their own respective functions and passages, and cut through vistas of intuitive sight a long road of shimmering discoveries. So in that plane of consciousness, through intuition, she appoints their functions. The worlds of a marvelous unknown were near. Behind her an ineffable presence stood. Her reign received their mystic influences. So these are the gods, and wherever her kingdom is, which is everywhere, their influence passes on to these worlds. Their lion forces crouched beneath her feet. That is how we see the description of what in India is called as Jagadamba. That the lion, symbol of all these forces, power. Lion is a symbol of power. And they are all below her feet. She is mastering them. So, it's interesting that all these gods in Indian mythology are shown as having an animal as his vehicle. And each animal is obviously a symbol. So Divine Mother has the lion. Yes. In her powerful aspect, she has the lion. In another aspect, she has the swan. So here it is the lion forces, because she is symbolizing that power.
And she even said, I always keep some lions with me.
Yes. And that reminds me of the beautiful lion that she has sketched. It's a very powerful being. The first day I put it in my room, in Desiree home, that night I actually saw that lion in the dream, moving around. And it had such a powerful effect. Literally, it's a real concrete being. It's not just a sketch. Whatever mother has sketched is immortalized. Their lion forces crouched beneath her feet. The future sleeps unknown behind their doors. Abysms infernal gaped round the soul's steps. and call to its mounting vision peaks divine. Imagine what a wonderful way the soul is walking on the path, and on one side it sees before it the glory, the summits to be won, and on the other side, abysmal, infernal depths which are gaping below. And they both call the soul, adventuring soul. And all these worlds from the top to below and in between, they're all her creations. He has scattered it. And both are needed to nourish the soul. One gives sweetness, the other strength.
But abysms infernal.
Yes, dark, dangerous. So they are there. The red heat of hell.
Yes.
Because that is needed to make the soul ripe and strong and fit to receive the grace. Otherwise, as Mother said at one place, what do I do with innocent angels? So there is the other side also.
Yeah, and Sri Aurobindo said he didn't think saints would be interested in his yoga.
Yes. Also, when he prays to, aspires to Durga, Mother Durga, he says, give to us the strength, the force of the Titans, a God's character and intelligence. So they are both necessary. So the infernal side of creation nourishes and nurtures our darkness. It provides a challenge. It's a mask that God has worn, because there is no other way He can push us to exceed ourselves. That's why human beings under the shadow of death become aspirants to immortality, because we are pushed by death as a goad. So we aspire for immortality, and at least in terms of our creativity, art, literature, to an extent, human beings have immortalized some works. An endless climb and adventure of the idea. Wow. This is one of the most mysterious words, idea. And surely Shobinda is not referring to the idea as we use it.
He capitalizes it.
Yeah, the real idea, the thing that has gone into creation. Even he uses the word thought with a capital T. That which has gone into the creation as a seed which will nourish in terms of, in through passage of time. So it is this idea which grows and develops. There tirelessly tempted the explorer mind, and countless voices visited the charmed ear. A million figures passed and were seen no more. As he is entering, he is witnessing Ashwapati, because now he is allowed admittance. That's what we read, that she is surprised that here is a seer who has come, and she is now willing to give her secrets. So how does for Ashwapati it starts? He enters into just the porch and is wonderstruck. This was a forefront of God's thousandfold house. We have this saying in the Bible that my Lord's or my Master's mansions
Has many
rooms, thousandfold.
Yes.
So this is only the entry point where you see all these things. Beginnings of the half-screened invisible, a magic porch of entry glimmering, quivered in a penumbra of screen light. So we experience these things separately because of ignorance. We see one point and we call it hell, darkness. We see another point, call it light, heaven. But in the divine, they are all joined together, but they are given their true place and true function.
Quivering in a penumbra of light.
The real light is yet beyond and behind. This is only the porch.
Yes.
Drive in. A court of the mystical traffic of the worlds. A balcony and miraculous facade. All the worlds approach her there, receive something from her, and go back rejuvenated. And they receive everything from her. All the unknown looked out from boundlessness. It lost upon an edge of hourless time. See, when I read these lines, it reminds me somehow of the mother's balcony darshan. A court of the mystical traffic of the worlds. God knows what beings, what forces used to come. The mother has said that when she used to give meditation, gods would come and sit on the ledge. And then she specifies all of them, the Trimurti, and all of them would come and sit. And surely, of course, the Titans also come because they also wanted their end for which they had craved so long.
And if there were 10,000 people, each one of us knew the moment Mother looked at us.
Yes.
Every time.
And she marked. That is the beauty of it all. Nothing escaped her vision. So look at these. A balcony and miraculous facade. Above her lightened high immensity. She says that, she would identify with the Supreme Lord and bring them down. And the Lord would look upon us. It lodged upon an edge of hourless time, gazing out of some everlasting now, its shadows gleaming with the birth of gods, its bodies signaling the bodiless, its foreheads glowing with the oversoul, its forms projected from the unknowable, its eyes dreaming of the ineffable, its faces staring into eternity. So Ashapati has reached that point where he is seeing the great gods even as they take birth in time. And on the other side, there is the boundlessness, the everlasting now, that moment which has paused as if all creation has stopped there and experiences the sense of the eternal. And from there it goes back into the constant stream.
And that forehead's glowing with the oversoul.
Oversoul. This is the term Sri Aurobindo has used a couple of places. It is the birthplace of, each individual soul, what is called in India as a Jivatma. It is born before time and space. But a part of it or a portion of it projects into the play of time and space. So the oversoul is these Jivatmas, as I have understood it, or as has been revealed to me, that these are the Jivatmas which are born within, and there one can see the original. They are ever in communion with the Divine Mother. And a portion of it is projected into the time and space, which becomes what is called as Antaratma, or the inmost soul, which through evolution puts on a personality which is called as the psychic being. So our birth is conterminous with the birth of the gods. That's why each of us has in it something of that.
She puts a small portion of herself.
Yes, a being no bigger than the thumb of man into a hidden region of the heart to face the pang and to forget the bliss. This in us is the Godhead small and marred. So this is also the birthplace. All the souls belong to her. They are born in her. And then she projects them into the play. Just as the gods are given a path, but they don't enter the play. They stay in their stations. So they belong to the typal worlds. But these Jivatmas enter into the play and become part of that. That's why they are so dear to the Divine Mother, even dearer than the gods. This is our special privilege for being human. The gods can wait, but she would rush at the cry of a human because that has entered into the play. The gods have chosen the functions. She says in 1926, she asked all these gods, would you enter, help in the supramental advent? She says, none agreed. Even Shiva said, I will help you, but I will not enter into this mortal body. But Krishna agreed. and he fused with the body of Sri Aurobindo. So beautiful. Gods don't enter into the play, but the oversoul sends something of itself. Life in him learned its huge subconscious rare. We do not know, but there he becomes aware of that part. The little fronts unlocked to the unseen vasts. Her gulfs stood nude, her far transcendences flamed in transparencies of crowded light. So it is a meeting point of all the worlds, the highest and the lowest. And then they enter into another state or way of being. A giant order was discovered here. Now we see that Sri Aurobindo gives a little break, and then he describes what Ashupati is witnessing, what has been revealed to him.
Giant order.
Yes, giant order. Of which the tassel and extended fringe are the scant stuff of our material lives. Even this material universe drifting in space, it's so vast, so big, and yet it is nothing but the outer hem of the robe that God has worn. Tassel, look at the word.
Fringe.
Fringe. This overt universe whose figures hide the secrets merged in superconscient light, wrote clear the letters of its glowing code. A map of subtle signs surpassing thought was hung upon a wall of inmost mind. So now the secrets is being revealed.
Yes.
So all these gods are luminous being. How do you really, understand who is what is the function? Can't do it by the mind. And of course, whenever human beings have tried to draw a picture or an image, it's a caricature. Shiva with a snake around him, and so these are caricatures. Even when Mother describes Sri Krishna as blue, she says not that slate blue which people put. So how it is discovered, how it is known? So it is known only by an intuitive sight. By little bit, even the mother describes that each of them has a separate shade and color. Like for Shiva, she describes golden red hue, which is characteristic of Shiva's color. They don't come with a breastplate. I am Shiva. So that is the beauty of, Ashupati has obviously grown into that.
Sri Aurobindo speaks of his color.
Yes.
And he says to whoever had that vision that it is my color or Krishna's color.
Yes, that's right.
And
Sri Krishna.
if I can diverge for a moment, there was a flower that I received the seeds from England. Interestingly enough, it was a variety. Lobelia erinus Cambridge blue.
Oh.
I grew it and I sent it to Mother. It was that blue of Sri Aurobindo.
Oh.
And she named it Remembrance of Sri Aurobindo.
Wow. It's a wonderful thing to know. Cambridge blue.
Cambridge blue.
Wow. Such wonderful mysteries. Illumining the world's concrete images into significant symbols by its gloss. So suddenly this illumination from behind reveals a truth which these images hide. We do not understand. We see only images. But what it hides behind the tornado, behind the sea, behind the drifting clouds, behind the sun, behind the moon, behind the drifting of the stars, the constellations, the mountains, the spirit of the trees of the forest, all these are revealed in that illuminating sight. It offered to the intuitive exegete. How beautiful this word is.
Yes.
This is literally, if you see the meaning, exegete is somebody who interprets the scripture.
Right.
You can't interpret a scripture based on any book knowledge or word knowledge.
But this is the intuitive.
Intuition.
Exactly.
There is no other way. We can analyze the word, right? There are many books, like for the Gita particularly we see. So it has the Sanskrit word and the meaning in Hindi and English now they have. And when you read essays on the Gita, then you realize, oh my God, this is, it's not the word meaning at all. The word itself and the meaning itself is illumined with something else, which is so deep. And there's so many layers of it. Imagine, half a verse from the Gita, Dharma Kshetre, the beginning, Dharma Kshetre, Kuru Kshetre, Samaveta Yuyutsava. So it's just that King Dhritarashtra is asking to Sanjay that, all my children who have come for war, both sides, in this field, Dharma Kshetre, Kuru Kshetre, they have come ready for war. So tell me what is happening there. It's a very plain, bland thing. Aurobindo on Kurukshetra writes a whole chapter, Man and the Battle of Life. Suddenly, the image of Kurukshetra changes from simply, it is the field of our deeds, our action, which is also the field of evolving dharma. Aurobindo, adds this word, field of evolving dharma. Dharma is not something static. Dharma Kshetre. It's something that evolves. As we grow, the dharma itself evolves. Yes. What applies at one level of consciousness need not apply at another level. That's why it is so subtle. Gahano karmani gati, that's how the Gita puts it. So if we try to look at it purely by words, we fail miserably. But where there is a gift of grace, of intuition, to him such mysteries are revealed. And that's what Ashwapati has realized. It offered to the intuitive exegete its reflex of the eternal mystery. Something of it gets reflected into the mind, which has become tranquil, intuitive, and that's how these truths can get revealed. So Aurobindo is giving us also the way to approach his own writings.
Yes.
Otherwise we may be lost in simply a body of words and quote, unquote, and more common misquote. The other day somebody was, there is a very famous writing of Aurobindo, which in PD it was very fond of being given, distributed. And today yesterday someone was quoting that, Aurobindo has categorically said that I don't like propaganda except for medicine.
And
books. So I completed that, Aurobindo's famous lines where he says, I do not like propaganda except for books and patent medicine. Right. And then he goes on to say that for a serious work like mine, it is a poison. So generally people quote it to say that Aurobindo was totally against propaganda and all such things. So I said, yeah, but Aurobindo has also written that even a work like this, in bracket propaganda, can be done as mother's work if it is done with the right attitude and the true spirit. I said, look, if you quote Aurobindo, there are so many things that Aurobindo has written where the opposite of it is also true. So, what applies, Aurobindo was not responding to intellectual queries, but to states of consciousness. To somebody who asked for, that about chickens, he has said, you want to know what happens when you eat chicken? And she gave that story that somebody ate and the whole stomach was upset because the person saw. You read it, you feel you should never touch non-veg. But when the people who were, having the fad about vegetarianism, the World Vegetarian Congress, they asked mother for a message. She did not give the message for some time. They kept pestering. So she says, I don't want to give them the message because they won't be able to take it. And then she gave the message that, the message that has come to me, stop being rigid, start eating meat.
Yeah. Could you tell the story about when mother was ill and
yes,
gave her the chicken soup?
Oh, that's
please,
a very touching
story.
where they wanted the mother to have chicken soup. And her body for a long time, she would not take it. Earlier she has taken, but So she said, no, I don't feel like taking it. Of course, we must say in the backdrop that mother's illness were not illnesses as we understand them. She was drinking poison of earth, to say the least. Like she was drinking poison. She was drinking poison that is released in this earth so that she could find the radical remedy by doing it upon her own body. And sure, there are letters of Sri Aurobindo to that effect. So they wanted her to take chicken soup, and she said no. She was very particular about it. Then Champak Lalji had his own way, and he says, Mother, if I were a chicken, I would love to get my head 1,000 times cut and offered to you. And then she said, all right. So you see, she responded to states of consciousness. Sri Aurobindo responded to states of consciousness. And the big problem is that when we reduce their words to absolute rigid dogmas for all times and for everybody, it's very, very dangerous. Scripture reading, at another place he says it's a two-fold sword. It's a double-edged sword.
Yes. I always fall back on what Sri Aurobindo said. Only that is true, the opposite of which is also true in its own time and application.
And we read previously that she withdrew the support from the evil she had nurtured. So, this here he has given in two words the mystery, that, it's only by intuition, by a quietening of the mind, that the truth behind the scripture can be revealed to us. Ascending and descending twixt life's poles, the serried kingdoms of the graded law. Now again we see that the graded law, the evolving dharma. There is no, it is the same law of truth, but in its application, it applies differently. See, this is what we don't understand. Our law is more like the law of death. Everybody is the same, but everybody is not the same, we like it or not. The divine protects Arjuna, even goes out of the way to save him from disaster several times. He makes impossible promises and Krishna has to do impossible things to save him. Rama goes out of his way to kill Bali. The upholder of dharma stands behind the trees to shoot an arrow and kill someone who was not even his foe. So Bali asks him in Ramayana, you are supposed to be an upholder of dharma, to always live in equanimity. He says, Samdarsi tam naam kahava. You are Samdarsi, equal in vision. Main veri Sugriv Piara. I become your foe and Sugriv is dear to you. How come? See, this is the graded law. What applies at one level doesn't apply at another.
Yes.
And we have to be very, very careful when we try to apply the same principle uniformly. Nature doesn't do it because it knows intuitively the truth. But human beings try to do it. Everybody is the same. Even when we say everybody is same in the eyes of God, it is true at the deepest level. But in his dealings, he deals differently with different beings. He deals differently with the snake, differently with the crocodile, differently with the bird, differently with man, differently with flowers. So the graded law, the serried kingdoms of the graded law.
Yes, and when I was confused about that word serried, I wrote to Amal. And I said, is it a typo? And should it be serried? He said, because serried? No, it's serried kingdoms. Up and down.
Yes. In a tire-like fashion, it is arranged.
Yes.
And she knows the truth of all. That's why the Divine Mother's dealings with one, and Sri Aurobindo makes it very clear in the Mother. Her lifting of this and dropping another line and then putting them together, picking them again, the human mind can never understand. Because this is the way she works. It was not that with everybody, people would ask, the mother gave him more time at pranam, that means mother must be very happy with him.
I remember that.
She gave me only a small touch. Somebody, those whom she gives a touch, they are closer to her. And Aurobindo letter after letter to say, no, the mother does not work in a human way. She sees for each one the law of the person's being, the need of the moment, and she gives that which is necessary. So look at we think linearly. So those whom she touched more are closer. Those whom she gave longer time are closer. Those who are far away from Pondicherry in the forest of Amazon are far from her. But that's not how she works. She works in ways which are incalculable. Graded law. Plunged from the everlasting into time. Then glad of a glory of multitudinous mind, and rich with life's adventure and delight, and packed with the beauty of matter's shapes and hues, climbed back from time into undying self. Beautiful. That it is plunged into the inconscience, and slowly, and in this process, it becomes rich, multifaceted, filled with various hues, the beauty of matter shapes. All this happens as a result of this. And she knows at each step what is needed.
Let's end with these last two lines.
Yes. Up a golden ladder carrying the soul, time with diamond threads the spirit's extremes. This is the supermind which knows all the laws of each and every world. That's why it has the key. On one side it knows the one, on the other side it knows all the details of the creation. If you get past into the beyond, you know oneness, but not the multiplicity. If you are on this side, you understand little bit of the multiplicity, but you don't know the one. But this golden ladder, the diamond threads, the supramental consciousness which has woven these worlds together. See, even initially it is described, all these various worlds meet and join. That's how the supramental consciousness is described. And she stands there as the supramental Mahashakti. So we'll
Could you
read
just
them
say
again.
about the thread that
Yes.
Mother binds us with?
Yes.
Please.
That, of course, is a famous talk of Nalnida. I think you are referring to that.
Yes.
It was given to the school children, but applies to, of course, many. That everyone who has been touched by her, everybody who has been here, studied here, the mother puts a golden chain around the person. And this golden chain is never lost wherever we may go. We carry this chain around us. It is the chain that binds us to the Divine Mother. But then he says something beautiful. He says, but to some she puts iron chains and makes sure that they are here next to her. No escape. Can't run away. Cry as you may or love it. So, of course, he binds even physically very close to her, because something is needed in the physical. So, but of course, one day all these chains, the golden, the silver, and the iron chain will change into her diamond chain, diamond threads. And then the near and far will be one, and the high and low come together in a single plan.